Hello and welcome to my review of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, the much-anticipated first part of the finale starring Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint. Yep, the Harry Potter phenomenon is officially almost over. Wait a minute, that sucks. Damn it, that means Twilight's gonna be the only thing left. God help us all. Now, because no one cares about my opinions on the previous films, believe me, I tried to tell you last year when Half-Blood Prince was coming out, but oh boy, none of you cared. I am just going to summarize my thoughts on the first 6 films in body language. Enjoy. Cool, but meh. Slightly more enthusiastic, meh. Yes! Epic win! Alright, slight comeback, pretty good. There you go. Don't ever ask me again. I'm talking to you, Marcelello11011. I'll get to your review eventually. Probably. So where does this new Harry Potter film fall? Somewhere between yes and epic win! So let's articulate on that a little more, shall we? Now the plot of this film, which will be very confusing to people who haven't watched the previous films, centers upon Harry Potter, Ron, and Hermione, who are fighting the war against Voldemort in the Death Eaters, and they go on this adventure to try and find these Horcruxes, which are parts of Voldemort's soul that he split up when he became the Dark Lord. So what we have here is kind of an on-the-run story as our characters try to find these Horcruxes and escape the danger of the Death Eaters. It's sort of hard to review this film as a single film, because what it is it's pretty much the trailer, and I know a lot of people have used this comparison, but it's pretty much a 2.5-hour trailer for the second movie. And I'm going to try my best to try and review this film as a whole without mentioning the second part too much. So this is what I liked about it. First off, this film is a lot more layered and a lot more character-based than a lot of the other Harry Potter films, which I really enjoyed. They really developed these characters very well, and the acting is so much better than in the other films. These 3 kids actually convey their danger without... It doesn't feel like a game like it did in the other films. Like Half-Blood Prince, they barely acknowledge the danger, and in this film, the danger is very prevalent, and you really feel like the actors really convey the toll that it takes on them. Each of the 3 main performers are all great, and I think they could all go on to lead solid acting careers because they really have grown as actors. Like I said, I enjoyed the story. What I liked about it most, like I said, they really conveyed the danger well, and also it was a nice change of pace from the other films. For one, it was getting sickening, going back to Hogwarts every film, and kind of having the same adventure, but in this, they completely changed it up, and it definitely worked for the betterment of the film. They actually decided to tell a story about the toll of war on young people, and more importantly, the toll of war on the more important people in the conflict. Also, the film is beautifully shot by David Yates. He hasn't been my favorite Harry Potter director thus far. So you can tell, not a fan of Order of the Phoenix. But the one thing I have always admired about him from the start is that he is a fantastic cinematographer and just a great... He can really set up his action scenes. Ever since he took over, the action scenes have been much more fast and furious and exciting. And until now, he hasn't really gotten a chance to show it because most of his action scenes before have been in the climax of the 2 films that he directed. But in this film, there's a few, and they're all great. They're very intense, and you finally feel like these wizards are battling and not just shooting spells one at a time. There's one scene in particular that takes place in a diner, and it's like a gunfight. They're like hiding behind cover, and they're just blasting at each other, and it's badass. Not to mention, there's a couple of other really cool action scenes. Like in the beginning, there's a scene where a lot of the main characters are disguised as Harry Potters, and they're flying through the sky like in a chase away from the Death Eaters. And the intensity of the scene and just how the Death Eaters fill the sky, and the chase cinematography is just unbelievable. And then there's another chase scene later in the film where they're running, and it's probably the most effective use of shaky cam that I've seen in a long time. It's like one of the few times that I've seen shaky cam be used to actually help the hecticness of the scene, because they're running away and shooting spells at each other, and it looks like they're running away from a bombing run, and it's just he's a great action director. So with all this praise I'm lobbing on it, and all this stuff that I'm telling you it's such a well-made film, how come it isn't my favorite? Pacing is a big problem here. Even though it's kind of a plus to this film because all my problems with the film are problems I have with the book, this film gets really bogged down in backstory and like making, and I like having a little backstory, a little meat on the bones. That's fine. It's just like it gets a little too bogged down in trying to explain things sometimes. And I think we could have spent more time if we're gonna have downtime developing these characters, because every time they were doing something like that, it felt great. It felt natural, and as I said, the acting was beautiful. But it kind of got bogged down in a little too much exposition. And in a good percentage of the middle, the film just kind of stops. It's just kind of stalling around. You feel really bored for the majority of, like I'd say, half of the middle of the film. Nothing really is happening. And that's fine. It's just, I wish that David Yates had kept up this desperate, like, threatening pace that he had through, like, the first half of the film. But in the second half, he bogs it down so much that it kind of loses the intensity that it had in the beginning. Overall, I did enjoy the film, though, and it's probably the third best out of the franchise, I'd say. And I have full faith now that David Yates can deliver an epic finale after what he showed me with his direction in this film. If he can just tighten up the pacing a little bit, the finale is going to be great. And I'm going to give this 3 stars out of 4. It's solid. It's not, I want to go 3.5, but it's just, it gets a little too bogged down in the middle, like I said. But it's definitely worth seeing if you're one of the 2 people who haven't seen it already. But it's not amazing, but it's an enjoyable film. It's well made. Certainly a lot better than a lot of the other blockbuster crap. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel, because there's going to be plenty of other videos coming up. And definitely look for a video within the next 3 days.